This episode is presented to you by NFL Sunday Ticket, now on YouTube and YouTube TV. With NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube and YouTube TV, you can watch your favorite teams' out-of-market Sunday games, plus watch up to 4 games at once with Multiview. Don't miss the race to the playoffs. NFL Sunday Ticket is now just $39 when bundled with YouTube TV, where you get even more football. Visit youtube.com/Spotify offer to sign up now. Lowest price on YouTube TV with base plan. Rest of 2023 season. Terms and embargoes apply. No cancellations.
Apple Gift Card is a practical gift that unlocks a world of entertainment and fun. You can send it via email or give a physical card to your loved ones. Your friends and family can spend it on their favorite Apple services, including Apple subscriptions. Apple Gift Card can be used to buy all things Apple: products, accessories, apps, games, movies, TV shows, iCloud Plus, and more. Visit apple.com for details and to send Apple Gift Cards to your friends and family this holiday season.
Introducing Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Icon of the Seas, the ultimate family vacation. The ultimate 6 slides, 8 neighborhoods, 0 compromise vacation. The ultimate never done that, can't wait to do it vacation. The ultimate chillin' by a different pool every day of the week vacation. This is the Icon of Vacations. Icon of the Seas, arriving in 2024. Book today. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
'Tis the season to shine with H&M. Discover the holiday collection and find fashionable pieces for your wardrobe or for under the tree. Get inspired and dazzle with this year's glam. From tuxedo styles, bow detailed pieces, impressive prints, and more. From unforgettable looks to unforgettable gifts. With fashion finds to home decor, find it all at H&M. Treat your loved ones and yourself this season. Shop in-store or at hm.com.
Anything to shake this mood I'm in. My football team's got me drinking.
Back at it again with another episode of the Shades of Blue Soccer Show. My name is Cody Bradley. Thad Bellis here, and we're joined by the Sporting Kansas City broadcast crew, Nate Bukaty and Jacob Peterson, 2 Kansas City staples here with us. What's going on, gentlemen?
How are you guys? Good to be with you.
We're feeling very good. I'm still rolling off of that win last night, a 1-0 win. So we got Sporting Kansas City is good again. We're going to talk about that. We've got national team. Nate is here. We have to talk about some national team and Leeds United States becoming much-watched soccer every weekend now. But you guys have to give us a minute. Give me and Nate a minute here to relive the moment of brilliance that we created in the Kansas City Current media game the other night. Hey, that was you shook me off one time, and it was good. You made a good decision then, and it was just the time where we connected. It just made sense. You looked up, we locked eyes. You sent in a perfect ball right on top of my head, and I sent it to the corner past an in awe Mike Kuhn.
I have to say I was very impressed with your finish, because that was a very well taken header. And when you're playing in a media game, you're not really sure what the relative skill level is going to be of anyone around you. You know, you for the most part, you have very low expectations. But we spoke before the game, and I could tell by your attitude that you were going to have confidence if the ball got to you in the penalty area. So it was, this is. I heard you say this on your guys' podcast last week, that the beautiful thing about team sports, and I would say soccer being at the top of the list, is the way these connections happen organically in the course of just these moments that you don't get to script out. And that was certainly one of those moments. I know Jacob is incredibly impressed with the performance by me and you. He's
cute. I love it.
He couldn't stop talking about how amazing we were at the sport of soccer. I mean, he was really blown away. I think I don't want to speak for Jacob, but I think that's how he felt about the whole situation.
This all becomes way less cool when a professional athlete is.
I mean, I've heard Nate talk about this goal constantly since last Friday. I was talking with Allie so Spartan about it. I said, if I hear Nate tell the story one more time, I'm going to lose it.
Well, I think you just heard it one more time, man.
Here we are. I mean, I can go into greater detail if we need to.
No, it's Nate. You said it before the game. You were trying to make some lifetime memories that night for that group of girls there. You were trying to make some lifetime soccer fans, and I think you may have succeeded in some of that.
Well, the
totally ignored you.
Yeah.
Yes,
ignored me.
Yeah. Well, look, I knew that Cody was going to get his moment to celebrate the goal, and all of his teammates were going to congratulate him. I needed to make sure that I went over and congratulated the Glowing Dragons, because also with fifth grade girls, I've been spending the last 5 years trying to convince them to actually pass the ball. And so like having an assist was even better for me than if I had scored the goal. So I had to go do that. But, you know, I figured this out by spending time around Jacob. You guys, I'm not trying to brag too much here, but you might be talking to the greatest media game / fantasy camp performer in Kansas City sports history. Because, and here's why. I finally just have gotten to the point where I am completely in acceptance of the fact that all I am is a nerd who wished he could be a great athlete. And I maxed out at being a slightly below mediocre high school athlete in multiple sports, you know, and I'm actually very proud of the fact that I was able to play some high school sports, even though I wasn't really that good at any of them. But when you get to the media level, that makes you like one of the best athletes out there, hands down. You know, so I have found my niche. This is the place where I was meant. And also, I'm clearly attention starved and need as much attention as I can possibly get at all time. And so you put me on a field could only have in my wildest dreams been allowed to play on, with a real uniform on, with people in the stands and the Jumbotron going. I'm going to give it everything I've got. And, you know, all these other people that want to act like, oh, I'm too cool for that. Good for you, because I'm not too cool for that at all. And, you know, my record stands for itself. You know, I mean, this is just the latest, honestly, Cody, in a long line of triumphs in sporting events like this for me. That's the truth.
I think we can develop a partnership for years to come here. And I think it's a connection we should look for in the future.
And then there's Jacob, who's like, so yeah, you had an assist in a media game. Awesome. Congratulations.
I honestly, hearing this story so many times, I think I'm going to play in the next media game and just man mark Nate. Just take him out of the game.
And Jake, you are on my team, man. You are an honorary Blue Testament member. You are on my team. Just letting you know that right now.
I got you, Thad. We'll play center backs together.
I do want you to know that when I went to mark Cody, because he was like on the post on a corner kick, he just like vacated that area because he knew I had fouled the ever-loving crap out of him.
Matt Beasler told me it was a good goal, and Jake, you're not going to take that away from me.
Hey, it was a good goal. And
which part of the head did it come off
so many times, I would be congratulatory here. But I've just heard it so many times that I just can't get over it.
Did you direct that ball, or did it just bounce?
Oh no, I nodded it. I nodded it for sure.
Yeah, he did.
But okay.
And so I will say this: I'm also this big of a nerd that if I actually get to be man marked by Jacob the freaking Answer Peterson in a soccer game, I will talk about that forever. I'm playing soccer with Jacob Peterson. This is incredible. You know what I mean? I have no business being on the field with somebody like that.
And it's win-win for you, and it's lose-lose for him. So.
Oh no, I don't know what I'm doing now.
Yeah, see, yeah, now you're in some trouble. There we go. See, we're teasing the next year's Kansas City Current media game. There we go.
And hey, there will probably be a Comets win this year. So
let's go.
Checking into boards. That's an added aspect.
Yeah.
I still say it was off though.
All right, let's talk about some real soccer.
Yes, Sporting Kansas City beat San Jose 1-0 last night. Seeing the reactions on the bench afterwards got me believing again. I'm feeling very good about this. Seeing Johnny Russell just as excited as after they had just scored a goal. They know that every win, all 3 points matter from here on out, and that they're not eliminated yet. And you can't help but kind of look at the points right now, and I'm getting excited.
It is.
All right, so go ahead,
it's
Jacob.
hard.
You go first.
It's hard because you don't want to. You basically have to win out, right? You might be able to lose one, and hope for some things to happen, but it's tough to not kind of get wrapped up in the recent performances because they've been impressive, and I think in different ways, right? Even the game down in Austin and the collapse wasn't great in the second half, but just the fact that we're scoring goals now at a high rate. And up until this past game, maybe it was the defensive side that wasn't great. But I thought defensively against the San Jose team, who is very dangerous, scores a lot of goals, especially out on the counter and in transition. And with the exception of an early shot from a Bobasi, where Kokanovic got in and slid it across to Bobasi, Sporting really didn't give up anything defensively through the run of play. It was just playing out of the back, where they would make a poor pass and San Jose would get a chance that way. But even then, those were few and far between. So it was a really good defensive performance against a team that I still would argue that they're attacking, front five, front four especially, are in the upper echelons of Major League Soccer. And the fact that Sporting were so good defensively throughout the 90 minutes is certainly a promising sign. But it's hard to sit here and say, oh, they're going to be able to win out, because in MLS it's hard enough to win 1 week, let alone 6 weeks in a row. And I'll say this: if Sporting go out to LA and down to Houston and get 2 wins, then I think I'm going to start coming around to you, Cody.
Mm-hmm. Man, you got to have hope, though. You got to have some optimism, right? I mean, even if they don't do it, it gives excitement for the end of the year. It's not okay, are we going to play for the wooden spoon or the second draft pick or whatever? There's a little bit of optimism. And I know Peter's been saying all year, the team struggling because they were missing 2 DPs, which everybody who follows soccer could understand. But I think a lot of people are going, hey, yeah, 2 players really did make a lot of difference, didn't it?
Yeah, and the fact, like Nate or Jake, what you were saying there about, it's not just that they've been scoring the goals, it's that they shut down that team specifically so well last night, which gives me a little extra, like, okay, maybe the defense is better than we've been thinking as well.
The holidays are a time to feel and create joy. And what could be more joyous than the look on her face as she unwraps a stunning new jewelry piece from Blue Nile? How about getting 50% off your purchase? Blue Nile offers premium quality, priced below traditional retail. Their online experts are available 24/7 to answer any questions and make sure you've picked the perfect gift. For a limited time, you can get 50% off at BlueNile.com. That's 50% off at BlueNile.com.
So I just got done playing a round of golf this morning before we tape this podcast. And
very nice golf shirt, by the way. You're looking very spiffy.
Thank you very much. I'm a latecomer to the sport of golf. I hated it most of my life, so I'm like one of these pandemic golfers. But one of the things I'm learning about golf that translates to life, and I think this situation we're talking about, is you really just have to focus on the next shot. If I start to, like, if I birdie a hole, which doesn't happen very often, or I have a really good hole and I think to myself, oh man, look at me, I've got it figured out. Now I'm going to cruise and I'm going to, that's usually when the next shot goes into the woods. Mm-hmm. And on the flip side, if I have 2 or 3 bad holes in a row and I start getting mad at myself, and start thinking about, oh man, I just hit a bad shot, that's going to ruin my score. And I start calculating what this hole is going to turn out to be before I even hit the next shot, I put myself in a bad position. Right. And I think that, also when you're playing well, you don't want to overthink, what does it all mean? You just kind of want to ride it, just keep your mind quiet and keep going. And that's actually one of the things I've been really impressed about this group of guys. They just seem to put their heads down and keep playing. I mean, think about how many devastating losses this team has had to deal with this year, and hardships and injuries and other things. And each time they've had one of those, I've thought to myself, man, this might be the one where they finally can't get themselves emotionally off the mat for it. And they might just come out and have one of those stinkers of a game. And they come back and they play their butts off and they play hard and they might lose the game, but the first half they're in the game, they're trying hard and everything. And you know, you talked about the reaction afterwards. I feel like that's what these guys are doing. Hopefully, you know, if you string enough good shots together, you have a good round. If they string enough good games together here at the end, maybe they'll be able to look up and say, yeah, look at us, we're in this thing. But it seems to me like they're just going, look, we know we have a pretty good team right now. Let's go try to win a game this weekend, you know, and then see where we're at the end of it. And I think that even if they do come up short of the playoffs, I get the sense that there is a belief on the field with these players that, hey, we've got something going here that even if it doesn't translate this year is gonna be a springboard into next year. I think the fans, I mean, I don't know about you guys, I've been blown away by the crowds the last few home games. For a team that's at the bottom of the table, this was a game against two of the two teams, two of the bottom three teams in the West. The crowd was incredible. And they were into the game and they were cheering. And I think it's because they see what they've got out here too, all of a sudden. And for me, this team had shown all year that they could play with the best teams in MLS. They just couldn't score with them, you know? And once they got a couple guys that could fill in those two holes around the rest of these guys that have shown all year they could play, now all of a sudden you can play and score with these teams, and that means you can beat all these teams. And at least, no matter what, at the very minimum, I feel like we've got a team worth watching for these last 6 games, right? And that's kind of right now. It's like, hey, man, that's all I need to ask for. And if it turns into a playoff run, that's a bonus.
Yeah, worth watching is definitely like you can't deny that. And the big thing for me is even if they don't make the playoffs, they can make this run exciting here and turn the narrative of the season from, you know, the worst season in the history of the club to, you know, a season of redemption where they showed this fight and claw of like a team that we want to watch all year, you know? And yeah, that's kind of what I'm excited for.
You know, Cody, can I jump in on that? I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's a big point. You know, I feel like there's been a lot of chatter this year about how the thing's broken. You know, they got to blow it up and change the direction of the club and all this stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, God, this team last year was one of the best teams in Major League Soccer. They had a couple terrible injuries. I think, you know, and what I think this has done has kind of shown the culture is still intact, right? They weren't that far off because if you just look at the results in the standings, you go, well, this team's a mile away from being a competitor. And I think that's another thing they've shown is they're not that far off. The culture and the organization still is a good culture and organization. And I think that's massive too, for the belief of the fan base, for the belief of the team and everything.
Yeah. Even just that game last night might have shown enough, at least, that it's like they didn't just lay down, and it did confirm everything you just said. So yeah, the last few games, at least they're going to be fun. So I'm excited.
Jake, you're getting quiet over there, man.
I was about to say that to you, Thad. Aren't you excited?
I know.
Give us some energy, buddy.
You know, Nate just takes over, and it's like, I mean, he has good points, so it's like, hey, just let him go. But it is true, and I think you could. As a former player, right? And Nate said it, but and Peter says it all the time. It's the most important game is the next game, and that's all that really matters. You can take a day or two to celebrate this game and you know the past 2 results, but then you know you flip that switch and it's on to LA and it's on to the next one, and that's all that matters. And it seems to me like it's kind of been night and day, right? Just the way that this team looks through the month of August compared to the first 5 months of the season. And it's a lot of that comes down to Willie Agada and Erik Thommy, who, and I got to say, we've talked a lot on our broadcast about Erik Thommy before the game last night in our pregame stuff. But Erik Thommy was by far the best player on the field. last night. He was incredible in all facets of the game, and he really deserved a goal or an assist or some sort of stat to show up, because people around the league aren't going to really realize how good he was in that game. And he 97% passing, which sometimes these stats can kind of get in the weeds and a little bit. If you're playing a safe pass, or if you're a center back, you should have high passing accuracy. But Erik Thommy's playing a number 10, and he's got 97% passing, while he led the team in chances created in key passes with 4. Also led the team in duels and won 69% of those. He was just everywhere out on the field. And it's performances like that get you excited, whether it's for this season down the stretch or for next season.
Yeah.
Because he really has come in, and I mean, I thought I knew that he would do well, but even this, I think, is taking it to another level. And he's class. And you can see how his relationship, I think, with Daniel is really starting to blossom. And it's that when one of those guys, holds the width outside, the other one's inside, or when Daniel comes inside, Erik knows to make that diagonal run, which is how the whole goal was created, right? Daniel comes back, Thommy makes the run out wide, great little move to free himself up. But it's little moments like that. And then also the relationship with Erik and with Roger, who's been playing out of his mind, I think, this past month also. And then Walter, who I think is settling in really nicely at the 6, and is kind of answering, that question that we've kind of been asking all season long of, who's going to lock down that position. And Remy's been excellent, really, really good in that spot. And I think he was one of the main reasons too why San Jose didn't get out on the counter as many times as what probably we thought going into the game. But
whoa, we lost him mid-sentence. But hey, going back to
Is he
Erik,
making too much sense? You just dumped him there, Cody?
he's sounding too smart. I had to get rid of him. Going back to Erik Thommy though, am I the only one that is surprised that this guy, like he said, the best player on the field last night, this guy that is fresh out of the second Bundesliga, the second tier in Germany, and he's only been here for a couple months, and he's he's juggling the ball in the box and doing bicycle kicks and is one of the best players on the field. I was excited to get a new player, but wow, I'm amazed at how good he has been. He has to be exceeding expectations by a mile.
I want to tell you guys something. I hope Jacob's okay with me telling you this. Jacob works in the scouting department now and is looking at guys all over the world and all this stuff. And when Sporting was getting ready to make the announcement that they signed him, he wouldn't tell me who it was or anything like that, because I don't want to know any of the information I can't know, because then I can't get in trouble for saying it. But he said, we got a guy, if this thing comes together, that is going to be an incredible player for us. And I said, I've heard people, we brought in midsummer guys in the past, and I don't feel like a lot of them really hit the ground running. If they do pan out, it usually takes them a while and all this stuff. And he said to me, if this guy isn't really good for us, I don't know anything. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't understand what makes a good soccer player. And I was like, dang, Jacob really likes this guy. And then, and the dude hit, and I'm curious now, Jacob, that you've seen him play with this team. Do you think is he even better than the guy you were talking up to me before he got here? Or did you think, yeah, man, he's going to be this good right off the bat?
Well, no, it's hard to come in midseason, and you said it there, but Sporting, typically we don't bring in guys midseason because it's tough to adapt to the group and to the system and to break up kind of that the culture in the locker room and to get up. But Erik's such an experienced pro, and he I don't know what happened when I got cut off there, but I only jumped in a little bit, Cody. I think he said second Bundesliga, but he was playing in the Bundesliga at Stuttgart. And
that was, as that was leaving my mouth, I was starting to doubt that.
Yeah, he was playing and he was kind of, in and out of Stuttgart. But he is just a physical monster, and how he treats his body and the physical shape that he's in, and just his technical ability. He kind of checks all the boxes. But Nate, no, I mean, you never really know, right? It doesn't, and just because you're a great player doesn't, and you go into a new team, doesn't mean that that's always going to be a success. We see that all across the league, all across the world in soccer, where a great player comes in, has success at his former team, and for whatever reason just can't find that same success, and then he might leave that team and go on and find the same success that he had before. So it's kind of always a wild card. But I think with Erik, all of the intangibles too, and all of the people that the scouting department spoke with and did their research, and I'm not surprised that he's succeeding, but I think I'm surprised that it's been this seamless, and just that how he's taken over, kind of as being one of the leaders on this team, along with Johnny and Graham and Roger and Tim, and the list goes on. It's been really good to see.
Yeah, when just before Cody cut you off, Jake, you said something about he is class, and that's an exact term that while I was shooting the game last night, I turned to the guy next to me. I go, "Man, that was just class." I mean, like that's my exact quote. And we were, because it was a little bit. I didn't shoot because I was a little bit dumbfounded. It just, I don't even remember what it was exactly now, but him dribbling through and maintaining control of the ball and dropping a 5-foot pass to somebody that normally we don't see people in this league do that well. And he's just doing so many good things. As much as Willie makes everybody happy because he's scoring goals and the joy and the smiles, backflips and everything else, I think Thommy is actually the much better addition at this point, because he's a guy that's going to bring class maybe for years. Goal scorers kind of come and go sometimes in their streaks, but midfielders can bring class game after game.
This is the last thing I'll say about Erik is, obviously we can see the special qualities that he has, whether it's that goal that he scored against Portland, or even that bike attempt in this last game. But one thing that he does well is, and it sounds pretty easy, but he makes the simple play. He does the simple things. His first touch, a square pass, a simple layoff. He does those simple things in a game correctly every single time. And yes, he can still do those special plays, but he does the simple play right every single time. And there are so many players who can't do that, because it sounds like it's easy, but it's difficult, especially when you're tired and you just made a 60-yard sprint. And it's something that like the Daniel goal last night, it seemed, it fell right to Daniel in the box. He should easily slot that one in. But Daniel just made a 70-yard sprint. And then to calm yourself in that moment to do it. And Erik's been so good at doing the simple things correctly every single time. And I think that just goes into the fact that his technical ability and the class that he has as a player is on a different level.
I'm sorry, Nate, I'm gonna add one more real quick thing, and then I'll let you go on your. One other thing I love about Erik is that he's also directing traffic out there. He's leading. You can just see you can see him telling people what to do and exactly what he wants to do. And I don't know if we've seen anybody do that as much in the midfield since maybe Benny. Sorry, Nate, go ahead.
Actually, Jacob, I'm curious what you think of that. What Thad just said.
Yeah, I mean, I think he does that. I think there are also a lot of other guys that do that. It's easier from that center of the field to do it. Graham, when he used to play in there, would do that. Graham still does that, but as a right back, it's a little bit different. Roger does that. He's constantly talking to people. But I think Erik, he might be a little bit more demonstrative, and he's pointing out things where Roger's constantly telling guys that. Johnny, I know, is doing that as well. But it's good also to see that Erik's doing that, and it just shows that he's got that high soccer IQ. I feel like that's one of those terms that's kind of overused and it's kind of cliche, but he does, and he's directing traffic, and he's finding the soft spots. He's always trying to find the soft spot in the midfield. And I think that that's a really good thing. But I do think it's not just him. I think there are a lot of other guys on the team that also do that. He just might be more demonstrative in kind of how he's showing it.
My feeling on that is that one of the things that I've really loved about the 8 years I've got to have the privilege of doing this job is that I get to go to training. And one of the things I've really learned about the game by watching it at the pro level is everybody uses their voice when you have a good team. The communication that you hear at a professional soccer is off the charts to me. They're always talking to each other. And I think the better the team you have, the more voices you have. And if you really think about the guys that have been playing in that position this year before Thommy got there, are guys that maybe are still kind of learning that position as they grow, right? So maybe they're not going to use their voice as loudly. So I think that's one of the reasons it stands out so much from Thommy. We know Roger talks, we know Graham talks, but we've seen that for a long time. We know Johnny does. You just plug in another guy who's like that, and all of a sudden everybody's communication's a little bit better just because there's another guy out there on the field who's like that. And I think it's maybe been a little bit of a surprise too, because of what we talked about earlier, that he's just plopped right into this team. And some guys might walk into a new situation like that and be a little timid. Hey, I don't want to speak too loudly because I'm a new guy here. Clearly that's not Thommy. He's not afraid to say what he thinks. So I think maybe that's part of the reason, because what I was going to say, Thad, in a weird way, at least in every conversation I've had about the two new guys, I actually feel like William Agada is the underrated one of the two. Ironically, even though he's the one that's scoring the goals. Every time we have a show prep meeting, we're talking about Thommy. We're talking about his leadership, and rightfully so, because he's incredible. But I actually feel like you kind of made a little throwaway comment there about how goal scoring kind of comes and goes. So maybe Agada's having this great run where he scored 5 goals in 3 games, but he might go the next 5 games and not score. And I agree with you on that. But I think that Agada brings a lot more to the table than just that. Number one, he brings an attitude that's very different from Tommy's that I think is equally as important for this team, especially a team that's gone through so much hardship this year. The dude's just happy. You know, Andy Reid always talks about energy givers. He wants energy givers on his team. And there's different types of energy givers. Erik Tommy's an energy giver, but he's serious with his energy, right? Agada's the one that goes over and jumps in Peter Vermes' arms and tries to choke his manager and that just kind of lightens the mood a little bit. You know, he is giving this positive. He's just so freaking happy to be here. And I think that, you know, when you're on a team, it's just human nature. If you've been playing here for a while and your team's struggling, to kind of forget how special of a place this is. Not completely forget, but if you know what I mean, you know, you start to take it for granted. You get more focused on all the bad stuff that's happening. Then you have a guy that shows up from Nigeria that's like, this is the greatest place on earth. And he's reminding everybody of how wonderful it is. It kind of hit, oh yeah, you know what? This is a pretty cool place. And everybody's energy level comes up. I think that dude is, even if he goes 5 games without scoring a goal, I'll tell you one thing he ain't doing. He ain't going a single game without a shot. You know, if he's playing 70 minutes, he's getting 3 shots off because he's going to do whatever he can to get on the end of every cross that gets put into the box. He's going to make every run that he possibly can. And he's pretty clever about his runs too, by the way. He sets guys up with the runs that he makes. And the more he does that, the more his teammates are going to see him. I don't know how clinical of a finisher he is yet. You probably have to see him play for a long time before we really know. But he's going to get chances every game. And the other thing he's going to do is he's going to do everything he possibly can to control the ball and hold it up in the midfield when the team plays it up to him. And he's going to wear the hell out of those 2 center backs, right? Those guys are exhausted by the end of the game playing against him. And you could see those 2 young guys yesterday. They fouled him early in the game because they knew going into it, we got to watch this guy. They already know. They've watched the film on him. And so for me, yes, Thommy is all the things we said, but I think Agada has brought a lot more than just the 5 goals, which is incredible right there. And I think that part, for whatever reason, and maybe this is a compliment to the soccer IQ of people in Kansas City, that they're not just talking about the guy that's scoring all the goals. But in a weird way, and I don't know if you guys agree with me, it's almost like we're talking so much about Thommy that we're saying, well, and Agada's been great too. And I think he's been right there in terms of what has this team missed all year long. It's and he's been a huge part of it.
We mentioned looking forward to next year. And when I think about starting Alan Pulido for 75 minutes, 78 minutes, and having that style of play and wearing him down in that way, and then bringing in Willie Agada off the bench for the last 10 minutes of a game, that just seems like a lethal combination that I'm pretty excited for. Thad, you were about to say something?
Go ahead, Thad. Got something?
No, go ahead, Jake.
Just gonna kind of piggyback on what Nate was talking about with Willie and Cody. I think I heard you say it. I think this was 2 probably podcasts ago with before he had that brace against Portland. Is how good of a finisher is he? Right? Is he? Is he clinical? Is he Alan Pulido, whose finishing is?
I got labeled an Agada hater for that take, thanks for wondering. But okay, anyway.
Well, no, I don't think that's a bad take. I think it's reasonable to ask that question, and because he's not clinical in the sense of Alan Pulido, or in a guy like Chris Wondolowski or Joseph Martinez. Now we're talking about the best finishers in MLS history there,
right?
But what I think is promising with Willie Agada is he's 22, right? He turns 23 here in a month or so, I think, but he's young, and that type of just being clinical in the box comes later on in your career. It's right after you get 1,000 reps, and after you can spend time in training working on all sorts of finishes, whether it's cross from the right, crosses from the left, finishing with your left foot on the run, on your right foot. There are so many things, and even in the game last night, and I actually think that might have been Willie's. I wouldn't say that he was bad, but probably it was his least productive game since he's been in the starting lineup. But he still caused problems, and he still caused those center backs for San Jose to work. And he had a couple of chances, and he wasn't clinical with those. And that's okay. I think if you're a 22-year-old forward, like I was never a clinical forward ever in my career, but I was so much better when I was 30 than when I was 22. And it wasn't even close. And I think that's something that, you talk about expected goals, and I know everybody's not always, people don't always love the expected goal stat, and I get that. But a lot of it, when you look at number 9s, and especially young number 9s, is what's that expected goals number at? Is it, per 90 minutes? Is it above 0.3 per 90 minutes? And that means you're basically going to score 1 goal every game. That's what you're expecting to score. And Willie's is in the 0.4s when he was over in Israel. And maybe it didn't mean that he's scoring a goal every other game, but it means that he's putting himself in the position to score. And as a young player, that's what you want. That's the most important thing, is to get in that spot. And we can see he's not a bad finisher. There's no doubt. I mean, he's had some really good goals in those 5, especially in that Portland game. But that's only going to get better. And the more reps that he gets, his ceiling is so high. So it will be interesting with Alan coming back, because I think Alan healthy is one of the best forwards in Major League Soccer. So it's going to be tough to find minutes for Willie, but man, he is really, I think, hit the ground running here in KC.
That was really great insight into the Sporting Kansas City scouting department there about, just finding a young player, the analytics that you're looking at, and just looking for a young player that gets himself in the right position. And that's something that we haven't, that's a part of talking to you that we haven't really nurtured very much of. We need to poke that more with you in the future. But before we get out of here, Nate, we got to talk a little bit about Jesse Marsch. I want to hear your thoughts on Jesse Marsch so far this season, and Leeds United States and Aronson, and It's just so much fun. I'm having so much fun every weekend, and I love that he's just inserting himself right into like the center of Premier League battles. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I was disappointed, obviously, with the result this past weekend.
Yeah.
But I'm, I've been an Arsenal fan for over 20 years, so I'll always cheer for those guys. But I find myself as excited to watch the Leeds United games as anything else in the league right now. And there's just so many reasons, right? I mean, if you're a fan of MLS, as we all are, you got 4 guys out there that have MLS pedigrees that are playing, not just playing, but playing like crucially important roles for a team that seems to be actually also drawing the respect of the people in England, who, let's be honest, they haven't had much respect for very many Americans. And especially, I mean, the coaching part of it with Jesse Marsch, I like the fact that I've felt for some time that we as Americans need to, it's always been a tough balance, I think, of keeping our Americanism, but also becoming a part of the global soccer community, right? Because like the early days of MLS, it was, well, we got to completely Americanize soccer or else Americans will never like it. And that wasn't the right path, right? Then it was almost like all the way to the other side. Let's just do everything we can to pretend we're European, And if I see one more FC come into MLS, I'm just going to lose my mind. It's like Jacob listening to me talk about my game-winning assist in the media game the other day, which I just referenced again. By the way, and it's MLS, it's MLS soccer, But there is a point where a huge part of the legitimacy of this league has been us joining the world, like, hey, we are a part of this. But then it's okay, finding what's our niche, because the thing I love so much about the sport of soccer is that it is the global game and that everybody has their own ideas on how it should be played. And some Americans watch English soccer all the time and they think that's the way it should be announced. I mean, we hear it about announcers, right? You're supposed to call it like the English guys do. Or what about the way the Spanish language broadcasters call the game? Completely different, a completely different set of ideas on how the game should be. And so I think it's okay for us to have our own attitudes and ideas. And what are Americans? A little obnoxiously brash and cocky sometimes, right? We got that can-do spirit that we think we can do things sometimes that we're, that maybe we're out over our skis a little bit. We maybe brag about our assist in the media game a little more than we should, and we got the big belt buckles and but we express ourselves and we also are completely diverse, right? We're not monolithic in this country. Tyler Adams, Aronson, and Jesse Marsch all come from different situations. And I like that Jesse seems to be kind of leaning into that brash American attitude right now. Like, you guys don't like me, so what? Get used to it. I'm here,
Yeah, has he always been like this, or is he truly leaning into that? Because I've never, I've known he's had a personality, but it seems like he really is leaning into this. Like, oh, they want me to be this American guy. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be spiking water bottles.
Well, go ahead, Jacob.
Nate, let me jump in and answer. Playing against Jesse, he's always been like this.
Yes, okay.
He's always been like that.
That's what I was just going to say. Jacob's got to give us insight because I don't know him. You do. Tell us about him, man.
Well, I mean, he's just one of those guys that you hated to play against. Absolutely would talk trash all game long, would kick you off the ball. I mean, it's why he was a good player. And it's why he's a good coach too, is because he's going to outwork you and he's going to make, your game or whether you're the other coach, game planning for you. He's going to be prepared. There's no doubt about that. He's going to make your life miserable. And I think that's why his teams kind of reflect his attitude. And I think those are the best managers, right? Where their teams reflect the attitude of the manager. And, I can't sit here and say that I've watched Leeds very much this year, but I think from everything I've seen, they're kind of reflecting who Jesse Marsch was as a player and who he is as a person.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'm having fun watching Leeds. I don't have any team. I don't buy into any specific team in Europe, but I just watch whichever ones have players I like. And right now, Major League Soccer is the one I'm following.
they're fun to watch too. I mean, they play that style, they're pressing up the field. They didn't play very well this weekend.
No.
And that was kind of disappointing to see, but the I don't think they're going to play very many boring games. They might have some where because of that style, they get carved open, especially when they play against some of the better teams. But they're not going to play boring games. And the thing I like about it is they're not going to be passive observers to their own fate. They're going to go out and they're going to have something to say about the outcome of their games. And I think their fans are going to like that. And I just really hope they have a good, solid season, stay out of the relegation zone. And if they do that, I think they can build. They can build and get better and better.
And bring in more Americans.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Nate Bukaty and Jacob Peterson, thank you very much for hanging out with us. And we'll be bothering you again.
Cody,
Anytime.
It was awesome to make a connection with you again. No connection will ever be as strong as the one that we had in that Friday KC Current Media game, but this was a pretty good connection.
There was a shared
well.
love there. Shared moment of love is how Cody described it. So
no, you
guys have that bond now.
He quoted me. I went up to him after the game. He said, I saw you lock eyes with me. I said, dude, we temporarily made love on the field. I mean, that's what that was.
That's what the beautiful game is all
magic.
About. All right, guys.
I'm hanging up now, guys. I'm hanging up.
Don't seem so tough. And 3 own goals ain't all that rough. Our skipper has just been sent off. Some punter strong and ball gone soft. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. My football team's got me drinking. Give me beer or whiskey, wine or gin, anything to shake